Hello everyone, this is RC053 for Couch Commander Gaming, and today I'm bringing you another deck review of a Blue Dragons Armored deck. Now, with the Blue Dragons Armored deck, it's very interesting. It's not the first Armored deck idea that I would come to mind, but I ended up trying to make this, and I used it in a game, and it worked out really well, actually. It was a very good game for this deck, and I hope you'll enjoy seeing that gameplay later. But first I wanted to show you the deck that I was using. So starting off in logistics, we have a command tank. Now for the command tank I chose the Nanayon Shiki A CV. Now if we compare this just quickly with the with the M48A3, the reason I chose the Nanayon Shiki A was simply because it was faster and it had more armor. So that's something that you always want to look at, and for 5 points more I was definitely willing to do that. Next, we have a forward operating base, especially important in armored decks because, well, you're going to be repairing a lot of tanks, and repairing takes a lot of supplies. Now, moving on to our logistics, we have the KV-107 Shiragasi. Now, this is a, I believe a CH-46. It's a frog, if you're not familiar with it. And where are the pilots gone? This must be a drone, ladies and gentlemen. The CV-107 is a drone. I'm just kidding, but then lack of being able to see a driver, I can only assume that this is remote controlled. But anyways, this is the KV-107. It is very effective for 30 points, and this is what I'm using. It's numerous, so I can deploy it to the battlefield basically wherever I need it. The other option is the CH-47D, which I do get 5 of, but I get 10 of these. So when it comes down to it, that's what I'm going to pick. And then also, next we have the KM-111 Cargos, and the only other option is the Chugata, and they're basically the same thing. And by basically, I mean they are the exact same thing stat-wise, so I just went with the KM-11. Infantry. Now, infantry may not be your first idea when we're looking at an armored deck, but I always think of them as a very important part of my armored decks, simply because without the infantry, I'm going to be unable to clear forests for my tanks to push up through later. Or else I'm going to be losing a lot of tanks later. So, first off, we have this Sochungsus and 85s and the KAFV 4050. Now, starting off with the Sochungsus, they have the standard basic assault rifle, nothing interesting here. They have an M72A4, so they do decent armor penetration with a good rate of fire, and then we have the M60 light machine gun, a good light machine gun for your infantry squads. Now, what's really good about them though is that you can bring them in the KAFV 4050. Now, the great thing about this is it has both a grenade launcher. It doesn't have the best rate of fire, but it's a grenade launcher nonetheless, and it has the Browning on it. It also has 2 points of frontal armor, and so this is basically how I'm going to deal with anti-infantry infantry. If that doesn't make any sense, don't worry. I mean like units such as Spetsnaz or Legion 90s, which can be very lethal to infantry unless they're dealt with like a vehicle such as this, which is why I like the KAFV 4050. Now, moving on, we have the Buntais. These are the Japanese rifle infantry. Now, the one thing that you'll notice that this the Blue Dragons like is a heavy infantry option to come with your armored decks, which is something that both the West Germans and the East Germans have. Now, the East German armored deck is not something I necessarily recommend, but the West German armored deck, you get, of course, those excellent Panzer Grenadiers. But with this, we have to settle with line infantry. So, once again, these guys have a battle rifle. Excuse me, I was going to say they had a assault rifle. But very similar stats to what these guys have. They have this must be glitch. I was pretty sure, looking at this. Yeah, they have the same stats. Wait, so it's a... Oh, this must be a glitch. It says battle rifle, but it's not actually firing a 7.62mm cartridge like NATO actually uses. So I think this maybe... Is this a glitch? This is the... So we have this, which does, and then this, which most certainly does not fire the same round. So I'm not sure if that's what that is on Eugen's part. Some explanation required, I guess is what we'll say. Sorry for that bit of a rant / detour. But anyways, they carry this rifle here. The Carl Gustav M2 with a good range, good armor penetration, great accuracy for just a 15-point unit. You can kill a lot of stuff with those Carl Gustavs. and of course a light machine gun, but once again we're bringing them in more so for their transport, which is the Hachi Kiyoshiki. Now the Hachi Kiyoshiki is really good because it has a autocannon with a 1925 meter range, which means you can engage like those really light tanks at max range and you can penetrate their armor, and if you get closer you can do a lot of damage to them. And also has 4 frontal armor, which is significant considering, say, a T-55A for a similar price doesn't won't be able to one-shot it. So that is significant, and it also comes with the, I'm guessing, the Geomat. I don't know quite how to pronounce that. I just don't know how to pronounce that. If someone knows the pronunciation, please leave it down. I don't want to be incorrect forever. But anyways, we have a 26-25 meter range with decent accuracy. Usually it will be a bit higher if you're not engaging at quite 26-25 meter range. Like in this gameplay, you're going to see they're going to be engaging at a much closer range. They also have 17 armor penetration. The suppression could be better, but they are a very effective missile at dealing with enemy tanks. And now we're bringing in 2 carts of these, just because I wanted to have a lot of these. Use them kind of like Bradley's War if I was playing with the United States. And then we also are bringing in the M67 Hun. Now these guys also have a these guys have the older battle rifle that these guys have, but the Huns carry a M67 recoilless rifle. Now the cool thing about this recoilless rifle, you can see it on this guy's back right here. The cool thing about it is that it has a 1400 meter range, so while it doesn't have the best armor penetration, it does high suppression damage and has decent accuracy at a extensive range, so you can engage an enemy tank per se, do 1 point of damage to it, but sometimes it's enough to make an enemy back away. Finally, we have the Minstrel. Now the Mistral is a good anti-aircraft missile. It's actually French. The French get this as well, and very cool. 60% accuracy with 26-25 meter range at a 5 HE power makes this the Mistral a very, very powerful missile. It's just very good, and you also get a 5-man squad, making them much more survivable than, say, a Stinger squad, which you only get 2 with. Then we also have the K200, which is just it's basically a stat, not a stat clone, but it has very similar statistics with its frontal armor to the KAFE, and it just comes with an M2 Browning. I didn't want to break the bank on this. It's not really worth breaking the bank on some AA missiles, especially AA missiles that cost you $35 points a piece. So I was going to say, if this cost me $35, then wow, that would just be insane. Go to local. Hey, I'm going to go to my local supermarket. What do you like to buy? Well, I'd like to buy some Mistral missiles, please. Here. Okay. Anyways, that's little joke for your video today. For our SPOG, or self-propelled AA gun, well, one of them, I guess you could say, is the K30 Biho. Now, the Biho has a 2,800 meter range against helicopters and 26-25 against airplanes, making it very effective at stunning enemy units before they get to your tanks. Just keep in mind that this is radar guided, so if you got any KA-52 flying by, then just best be careful. Next, for our not radar guided SPOG, we have the Vulcan. Now, this may be the KM-163, but it's actually just a Vulcan. It is. Sorry to burst your bubble, but it's a Vulcan. It's a very good ground range, 1050. Some of the other ones have 1575. I think only the ones in the vehicles section actually have that, but still very effective at dealing with VDV, like that's getting just a bit too close for comfort. You can do a lot of damage to them. With a 24-50 meter range against helicopters, it means that you are going to be outranged by a lot of enemy helicopters, but at the same time, you are not radar guided, so you can use these be very sneaky with these, and you can kill helicopters that decide to get just too close for your comfort. And finally, in our AA, we have the M72 iHawk PIP XXX. Now, the PIP 2 is basically an in-between between, well, the PIP 1 and the PIP 3. What? Wow. I bet you weren't expecting that one. But anyways, just comparing this to, say, the normal iHawk, it has better accuracy by 5%, which can make a difference when you're dealing with aircraft with seed, and they have a better helicopter range. So you can do some damage, and quite a bit of it, to enemy helicopters that decide to fly a bit too close. Do keep in mind, though, this is a very expensive missile to fire at a helicopter, so I wouldn't recommend using this as a primarily anti-helicopter unit. Tanks. We have a lot of tanks, so we're going to get through this, but a lot of them are repeats, so I'll just try to go best as I can through these. One, we have 2 cards of the Kiyomarushiki. Now, the Kiyomarushiki is a very good main battle tank that the Blue Dragons get. It has an excellent gun. All these sets are very good for a main battle tank, and it has an auto-loader and fires 12 rounds a minute. This is what makes this such a formidable battle tank, is that it has good armor, but it fires very rapidly. So, for that reason, you can actually stand up to even, say, T-72BUs, because in a closer-in gunfight where your armor penetration is going to be doing a lot of damage to his tank, you can just keep hammering away at his tank, just destroying his armor, and doing a lot of suppression damage. Meanwhile, while he's trying to fire at you, that panic damage, not to say it's that suppression, that panicking, isn't going to affect your rate of fire, so you can just keep up the fire, keep firing, and you're going to do a lot of damage to it. Now, for our next tank, we have the K1A1, very effective main battle tank, good for basically doing anything you need it to do. Has that same excellent range, just comparing it to the Kiyomarushiki. Very similar in some ways. Its guns are virtually identical. This one has 5% better accuracy normal and 10% better stabilizer, so that should be taken into consideration, and better rate of fire. However, the K1A1 has a couple of key advantages which are important to highlight. One, in addition to carrying just an M2 Browning, they both have the same M2 Browning, the K1A1 carries an M240 on it, which means that it will do a better job suppressing enemy infantry. Next, the K1A1 has better autonomy. Now, it may not have better miles per gallon, but it has better autonomies on 1 tank of gas, so you can be more effective in that regard. And so, also, you do sacrifice 2 frontal armor points, but in return, you get more back and top armor. This can be significant if you're worried about getting smirched. Kiyomarushiki is going to be more vulnerable to smirch fire, and more vulnerable to getting shot in the rear. Now, most likely, if your tank gets shot in the rear, it is gone. But if for some reason, it doesn't go through, it's going to be more likely on the K1A1 that it stays alive. Now, next we have the K1, just the K1. I was about to say something else, but no, it's just the K1. Comparing this once again to the K1A1, well, you can see what we're getting. We're getting roughly the same accuracy out of it, lower armor penetration, and the gun other than that is the same. Armor-wise, you have less frontal armor, not by much. You just get 1 more point of frontal armor. However, you do get a much better gun. You get 2 less side armor, 1 less back armor, and 1 less top armor. And you also have worse optics, so this couldn't really spot for itself. However, the K1 remains a venerable option for dealing with your other tanks, some of the Soviet tanks, and I'm taking 16 of them in total at Elite. So they are going to be very effective tanks at killing enemy tanks, and they're going to be great support for my forces. Next, the best support tank that I have in this deck, I'd say, is the Nanayon Shiki G. Now, basically everything past this is going to be Japanese tanks, and we'll just get to them. The Nanayon Shiki G, though, has a good gun. Just let's compare it to the K1. Why not? Let's just go compare it to the tank before it. It's going by price. Why not? So, you do get a better gun on the Nanayon Shiki, and it fires faster. This will fire quite quickly, making it excellent at engaging tanks at long range or vehicles at long range. It is significantly slower, though, than the K1. So just bear that in mind. It does have better accuracy in both regards, but the best thing about the Nanayon Shikiji, not the best thing, its rate of fire is quite impressive, but the best thing is that one of the best things is that its secondary weapon is a grenade launcher. This is the only tank in the game to have a grenade launcher mounted to it. Now, I know there are probably other vehicles that are capable of it. There are certainly helicopters that are capable of it, certainly other tanks that are capable of it. Even the M1 Abrams can carry this in theory, but Wargame just didn't do it because of balance purposes, so Eugen, your secret's safe with me. But, well, wait, I'm on YouTube. Oh, hi world! I just revealed Eugen's secret. Well, not really, but still. Anyways, the Nanion Shikiji has the Mark 19 grenade launcher, and that is just creams enemy infantry. If you haven't seen the work of an automatic grenade launcher, then you haven't played Wargame for very long. Yeah, its optics are also poor, which, in the same respect, so is the K1's. And the autonomy isn't as good as the K1, but it technically has better miles per gallon or kilometers per liter, I guess. Anyway, but the biggest problem with the Nanion Shiki G is its armor. And all the Nanion Shiki suffer from this problem significantly, as they don't get a lot of armor. This is a 60-point tank. You are paying a lot of points for this. And it can die pretty easily, because it only has 8 frontal armor. And so, that's just a big issue when you're using a tank like this. It's expensive in some ways, but it's also kind of risky. It's still a very good tank, though. Don't let that take away from how good this tank is. Next we have the Nanion Shiki E, very similar to the Nanion Shiki G. Basically the same stats on the gun, except for 1 less point of armor penetration. The Browning instead of the Mark 19, it's a bit faster though. I mean, if that's something you're worried about, it's just 5 kilometers an hour faster off-road. But it is significantly less armored at only 6. So it basically is putting less armor on a tank that's already not as armored as it should be. So yeah, there's that little detail. We don't mention that. Then we have the Nanion Shiki A, once again very similar to the Nanion Shiki E, except for a couple of key differences. I know, these all have a couple of key differences. That's going to be my new favorite phrase. All these tanks, all these infantry have a couple of key differences that actually make them kind of unique. Anyways, the Nanion Shiki A, first off, has a heat gun, which means that basically the armor penetration isn't going to get better the closer it gets. Secondly, it also means that it will do 1 point of damage no matter what to the target, which can be significant if you are talking about a T-72BU. If the T-72BU for some reason can't see you, but you can see it, you can just keep pecking away at this thing, and if the guy's not moving it, you can in theory kill a T-72BU with a Nanion Shiki A if the T-72BU doesn't see you, and that's a pretty big if, because if I'm using that T-72BU and I see that thing take a hit, I'm going to scour everything in the area with recon. I'm going to pull back the T-72BU once it takes a couple of shots, because I know that probably he's got a even better airplane or helicopter there on its way to kill it. But yeah, so I use this as my cheap support tank, a fire support unit, if you will. It's more of a vehicle than anything. And then just for funsies, we are taking the M41A1, just because having a cheap spam tank is sometimes interesting. You can also use it primarily, which I would recommend, is as a picket defense, like on areas that you're not exactly sure are secure, or using it as fire support, or using it as force recon. There are a number of different roles that this could possibly fulfill, but the M41A1 is by no means a main battle tank, and I would even call it a stretch to give it the cavalry tank classification that it already has. Maybe back in the 50s and 60s when this was actually a thing. Now, reconnaissance. Not extensive, as you might see. First, KAFV 90. This thing is actually really good. Looks really dorky, it looks really stupid in my opinion when you are just looking at it. You're like, South Korea, you gotta be kidding me. You just put a transport and you put a gun on a tank gun on it? Wow, lame losers. No, but this thing will do a lot of damage. And when you properly use it, will definitely kill tanks. And getting side shots on tanks with this thing can even do a lot of damage to that. So, just keep that in mind. Don't underestimate this. It has good optics, good speed, decent autonomy. That's really the biggest thing that the Blue Dragons deck will suffer with, is autonomy. So don't go taking this on some huge 10v10 map or some enormous, like, straight to the point, or, you know, the large straight to the point, because they will run out of gas. A lot. And the last thing you want to do when you're playing Armored is managing all of your logistics. Honestly, you don't want to be doing that. You want to be focusing on your offensive capabilities. Next, we have the OH-6. OH-6 is, well, it's basically a little bird. Like, it's a little bird, but it's like the little bird before was the little bird, is my understanding. I could be totally wrong, and this could actually be the little bird, but long story short, regardless of whether or not this is actually the little bird, and whether or not I'm totally confused, or whether I'm not, we have a 2600 kph, which makes it very speedy, compared to, say, the Mi-2, which is slow compared to this. And it has good autonomy and good fuel. I mean, all in all, it's a good chopper. My only gripe, and I say gripe in a sarcastic tone, is that it only has 4 strength, but that's an issue that most of your recon choppers are going to have to deal with. You're going to have to deal with your recon choppers. Next, we have the JSDF Rangers. In case you're wondering what JSDF is, it means Japan Self-Defense Force. That's basically Japan after World War II. I should have said this at the beginning, give you a brief history lesson. After World War II was not allowed to ever have a military. However, it did end up having a defense force, and that's what defends Japan to this day. It's not allowed to go on the attack. It's only allowed basically to defend the Japanese islands. Notice I'm saying basically because there are a few exceptions in here and there, but that's what the JSDF is. Now, getting into the Rangers themselves, so the actual units instead of this, we have 2 cards of them because I like these units, and I also had some extra points lying around, but still. The JSDF Rangers are very good at basically being recon. They're not as good as the US Rangers because of the light anti-tank weapon they carry. They do not carry like the Carl Gustav M2. If they had that, I would like them a lot more. But their SMG is decent. But uniquely, they carry a DMR. DMR stands for Designated Marksmanship Rifle, in case you're wondering. Now, it has a great ground range. Yeah, great ground range. Great ground range. Yeah, try saying that quickly. This ground range, though, is quite good at, in case you're engaging enemy infantry groups that are in front of you, or, you know, you can engage this pretty stealthily, and you have a good suppression, and you can even panic a squad before they even get in range, and once they do get in range of your SMGs, then they better watch out, because they're going to be putting down a lot of fire on them. Now, for transport, we're taking the KV-107. The KV-107 is what we're taking. It's kind of a common unit. You're seeing the KV-107 here. You're seeing it in a similar role in a supply role. You know, it's everywhere. Back to recon, though. The KV-107, I'm taking it because it has great autonomy. It can fly around the map, which is why I'm taking it. And it's also quite fast at 270 kilometers an hour, which isn't the best. I mean, there are definitely faster helicopters. I mean, the Mi-24 Delta, for instance, and the Mi-24D, in case you're wondering, goes about 330 kilometers an hour. So, yeah, there are significantly faster helicopters, but these are great transports because they are much less expensive. That sums it up for recon. We only have 1 vehicle in here, which some could argue is too few, but I'm only taking 1 because this is all I think I need in the vehicle section here. And that's a KM-132 with a napalm launcher. This is an M113 with napalm, which makes this very lethal against infantry. You can use it to flush out enemy units. You can use it to guard your flanks against recon infantry, or to just, like I said, flush enemy targets out. Deal with, say, Spetsnaz GRU, pesky GRU, those guys. And basically, I use this as an anti-infantry option to support the tanks. Other interesting choices. Well, you could take the M18, you know, give it a chance to blow something up after its time in World War II. You could do that. M36, you could basically do the same thing. Another wool unit. Or you could take this thing. Don't ask me to name what this chassis is or what this really even is. This is just extremely, extremely weird. I'm sorry, Japan, but this is like really weird. Like, I'm sure someone would look at this and they'd be like, yes, this looks incredible and this looks amazing. It could be modern art. And I'd be like, yeah, this looks so stupid, it's not even funny. But it does have pretty good HE power. The big problem with this is the autonomy. And the autonomy is so low, it's so terrible, that I can't even bear to use it. I'm sorry, Japan, but this is one thing I can't use. Choppers. Everybody loves a cool attack helicopter. So, we have an AH-1J, and I'm taking this because it's good fire support once again for my tanks, for my infantry, and this is basically our coverage. It's got rocket pods, and it's going to use those rocket pods to engage enemy infantry and stun enemy vehicles in case I need them to perform such a role. It also carries a Vulcan, so you can use this in a makeshift way against, say, advancing vehicle columns, like, say, a motorized column. You can even, this thing will kill quite a bit of enemy transports if you give it the chance. And it will also, I've used these things as, not to say AA helicopters, but kind of AA helicopters. Because of that autocannon, you can do a significant amount of damage to enemy helicopters. And if they're, say, sending in an Mi-24D, and you get there at the same time, you can engage it with a superior range on your autocannon, and just stay out of that range of that Yak Bee, because it will eat choppers, not choppers, but the Cobra for breakfast, and just snack on this all day because it has no armor. So with its superior rate of fire, it will do a lot of damage, but if you don't let it get close, that wouldn't be an issue now, would it? And next we have the AH-1S. We have two options here. We can take it on this one, which is a dark green and white, or we can take it on this one, which is a pale green and white. Ooh, see the difference. See it transform before your eyes. But anyways, the AH-1S, the paint scheme only depends on which country you take. And it has the same Vulcan, it has the same Hydras, but what you get is an Ito, which is good at engaging a variety of enemy vehicles and units that you may hesitate to deploy, say, a Hellfire if you had it, or like a TOW-2 because really, I'm gonna blow up a 10-point, unit that's important for some reason, like, say the 20-point VT transports that the North Koreans get, where it has a good range with its AA missiles. They aren't great, but they'll kill one of these, and you're like, oh, I don't want to shoot that with Hellfire, because that would just be a waste, but I can't close in and use the autocannon, the Gatling gun. So yeah, that's a troubling choice. So you can just engage it with an Ito, feel no regrets, and move on. So that's kind of what this is used for. It will engage medium tanks, I guess, but it won't engage anything super heavy, which is the biggest issue with these helicopters. Aircraft, finally, you're like, oh man, it's been 30 minutes. RC0538, please finish up. This is a long video, but I know it is, but this is a cool deck to take. So if you're still watching, thank you. But we have an F-15J. The F-15J is very effective with its AIM missiles. They have 60% accuracy and 4,200 meter range against aircraft. Is not too shabby. And its Sparrow is also quite good because of its high HE damage and high suppression value. So you can do quite a bit of stunning damage to an enemy vehicle. Yeah, not a vehicle, an enemy airplane. So you can stun it and probably make any enemy missiles less accurate later on. Next, really crazy odd option. Don't ask me to pronounce this. This is the KF-5E Jigong-ho. I'm gonna guess. So anyways, the Jigong-ho is a cheap throwaway aircraft, which I intentionally brought for the sole purpose of blowing up KA-52s and KA-50s, because let's face it, those annoying helicopters will wreck your armored columns if you let them. They have better accuracy than, say, the F-5E, and they carry more short-range missiles, which are the only ones which can possibly engage the enemy helicopters. So, you get a decent platform with this. ECM could be a lot better, but remember, it's not meant to survive the mission, really. You're using this to snipe a helicopter or kill it. before it becomes too much of an issue. So anyways, that's Jigung Ho. F1. Interesting aircraft, because it carries 2 laser-guided fire-and-forget missiles. The cool thing that you can do with this is you can order it to engage. Like I use this in the match that I'm going to upload in a bit. This will I actually put a laser-guided bomb in the cockpit of a Ka-50, and that is such a cool feeling. I gotta tell you, if you haven't done it, you gotta try it. Just order it to attack ground that the Ka-50 is kind of hovering low to. And if they're not watching it, then beware. This will kill your Ka-50s and Ka-52s if they are grounded. So just keep that in mind. And finally, we are to the F4E Peace Pheasant 2. Really good tank sniper. It's not the best, of course, but it's still a very effective tank sniper for what you need it to do. For example, in one match, I killed a T-80UM and a T-72BU with a 90-point airplane. So for 90 points, I killed a 170 and a 180 point unit with one airplane, mind you. Not in one run, but with this one airplane. So yeah, tanks beware. Now, I kind of wish that as the South Koreans, you got the A-10. I believe the South Koreans also have it, but you don't get it, so you gotta make do with Peace Pheasant. Anyways, this is the Blue Dragon's Armor deck. If you stayed to the end of the video, thank you. If you think it was useful, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Anyways, thank you for staying. This is RC0538, signing off and wishing you a good day.